Elon Musk has arrived at Twitter headquarters. He put out a video on his account, the silly little video of him walking in. Let's take a look at that right now. Here he is, carrying a sink into Twitter headquarters, saying, "I'm here, let that sink in." Haha.
Which, yeah, I have very little tolerance for puns, but okay, Elon. We'll give you that one
Because he had the prop to back it up. We'll give you a point.
He committed to it.
Right. Exactly. He went
committed
out
to the
and got a
bit.
sink.
So it looks like literally tomorrow, Elon Musk takes over Twitter, because tomorrow was the deadline before the lawsuit against him for not closing the deal was going to proceed. So look, I think he probably stepped in it. He was probably kind of playing games, and the Twitter board was like, "No, fuck you, man. You offered us double what this company's worth. We're holding you to it. We approved it. Now you're going to pay it." And now he's stuck. Twitter is as far as I know, of the major social media platforms, financially, it's the worst off. They've never really figured out how to monetize Twitter.
Right.
The ads haven't worked. Subscription basis hasn't worked. So Musk, as part of his pitch to banks, because he had to get together, some bank loans for this deal, is that the company's very bloated, and he's going to fire a lot of the workforce, which led them to put out a letter. Basically, it was a very interesting letter, because, like, on the one hand, they're begging for their jobs, and on the other hand, they're virtue signaling their hostility to Musk and any plans he might make to change the platform on an ideological ground, like introduce free speech or anything like that. So we have that up on the screen. So Elon Musk's plan to lay off 75% of Twitter workers will hurt Twitter's ability to serve the public conversation. Well, they're not doing that very well now. And actually, we don't have an element for this, but from the pandemic on, this is interesting. This is something I've thought about. I've wondered, because I believe that humans do have a survival instinct that will kick in eventually when they're exposed to something for long enough that's deeply harmful. Twitter has been losing its most active users for a couple of years now. So Twitter's probably worth even less than it was when Musk made this pitch, which people estimate about 20 billion, maybe. It's probably worth less than that. 10% of Twitter users generate 80% of the tweets. And those very heavy users have been starting to drop off the platform. Nobody's exactly sure why. My theory would be, I know that I personally over time have used social media less, and I've noticed that with a lot of other people that I know. I think just the fact that it's unhealthy and sick, eventually you react against it. Eventually, only the sickest people want to live in that kind of a place. It's just a very unhealthy headspace to be in. Who the fuck wants to be thinking when you're out of the house, "Oh, did that person respond to that thing that I was in that flame war about? What did they say, man? I don't want that up for 6 hours with no response," right? Like, eventually you just don't want to post anything anymore. And Twitter, I only really spend time on Facebook. Twitter makes Facebook look like the League of Nations. I mean, it's just fucking horrible. So a threat of this magnitude is reckless, undermines our users and customers' trust in our platform, and is a transparent act of worker intimidation. They're talking very, very brave for people running a company that makes no money. So a threat to workers at Twitter is a threat to Twitter's future. These threats have an impact on us as workers and demonstrate a fundamental disconnect with the realities of operating Twitter. They threaten our livelihoods, access to essential health care, and the ability for visa holders to stay in the country they work in. Oh, yeah, this is going to go a long way with Elon Musk.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think they have mistaken him for somebody who gives a shit. We, the workers at Twitter, will not be intimidated. This just gets funnier. We recommit to supporting the communities, organizations, and businesses who rely on Twitter. We will not stop serving the public conversation. Listen, idiots, you picked a side. That's why you don't want to pick a side as this kind of a business, because sometimes the people whose side you pick are in power and sometimes they're not. And what do you think's going to happen when they're not?
Let me just also comment on this here. We recommit to supporting the communities, organization, and businesses who rely on Twitter. There are a lot of businesses who rely on Twitter, who rely on Facebook, who rely on YouTube. They can be disappeared without warning for violating your bullshit terms of service.
Exactly.
They don't like being harassed and intimidated by you fucking ghouls either. All right? So now you're getting a little taste of your own medicine, but on the bright side, at least, there's a person who's making you feel that way. Anybody who creates content online, who relies on Twitter, we don't know who the fuck is calling the shots here and for what reason. And that's what Elon Musk is at least saying he wants to change. Now, do I take him at his word for that? No. But since he's coming in with that specific purpose in mind, I'll at least give him 50-50 odds until he proves wrong. But
and the current,
these guys, we know who they are.
Dead set against it. You people are dead set against it.
Exactly.
Right? So why would we support you? Why would we side with you?
Yeah.
We call on Twitter management and Elon Musk to cease these negligent layoff threats. So now these tech workers are fucking Che Guevara. They're all collectivists.
Right.
I had no idea that they were so against the capitalist project. I did not know they had such community-minded ideals. We will not stop serving the public conversation. Okay, well, you can do that. You can go. I'm sure you can get those Xerox machines very cheap. You can make some flyers. You can hand them out. We call on Twitter management and Elon Musk to seek these negligent layoff threats. As workers, we deserve concrete commitments so we can continue to preserve the integrity of our platform. This is where this is comedy gold. We demand of current and future leadership. 1, respect. We demand leadership to respect the platform and the workers who maintain it by committing to preserving the current headcount. Okay. Safety. We demand that leadership does not discriminate against workers on the basis of their race, gender, disability, sexual orientation, or political beliefs. Oh, you have a problem with being discriminated against because of your political beliefs. Well, that seems to run counter to your entire ethos about how you want this de facto public square, public utility to be run on behalf of a particular set of political beliefs. We're not talking about, banning hate speech, but the way that you define hate speech pushes the envelope of the meaning so far that it has no meaning. It has no credible meaning in the mind of the average person. And this is what I love. All of the people on the left all of a sudden become fucking libertarians when you say that. It's a private company. You don't give a shit about that in any other area. But in this one area, all of a sudden, they're all Ron Paul.
Right, exactly.
We also demand safety for workers on visas who will be forced to leave the country they work in if they are laid off. I'm sure you really give a fuck about that. Protection. We demand Elon Musk explicitly commit to preserve our benefits, those both listed in the merger agreement and not, e.g. remote work. We demand leadership to establish and ensure fair severance policies for all workers before and after any change in ownership. Dignity. We demand transparent, prompt, and thoughtful communication around our working conditions. We demand to be treated with dignity and to not be treated as mere pawns in a game played by billionaires, because they are so anti-billionaire. The people from Silicon Valley, they are such notorious firebrand radicals. Musk didn't waste any time responding. We have his response right here.
Go home and get your fucking shine box.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That was his response. Okay, so if you understand the financial position of Twitter, if you understand the current market environment, that letter is fucking absurd. Absurd. All of these tech companies are getting destroyed. Facebook just reported its earnings, had the worst day, I believe, in the history of
Brutal.
Facebook.
Yeah,
lost 25% of its value, and it had already been destroyed. I think it was already down 80% from its high. And then it lost another 25% when it reported earnings. They're promising to lose more money next year. And Facebook is a better business than Twitter. And you are demanding from the new owner, not only that you don't get fired, but that he run the company the way that you want. With what leverage? With what leverage? He wants to fire all of you. You don't have a fucking union. You don't have a union. How are you going to enforce this? And you can't, this is not like what was going on in the pandemic. You can't just walk out of Twitter and walk in the door someplace else down the block and get a job. Everybody, Google's shedding workers, Tesla's shedding workers, everybody is shedding workers. Microsoft, because you have an environment of higher interest rates that impacts tech companies in particular, because tech companies tend to be valued on the future earnings potential. With high inflation and high interest rates, those future earnings aren't worth as much as they were before. So that's why the NASDAQ is getting hit the worst. All the averages are getting worse, hit hard, but particularly NASDAQ. And you're talking about Twitter, the shittiest of these major social media platforms in terms of as a business. And you're making demands on the new owner who's looking to get rid of like most of you.
Yeah, let me just read. I want to read his letter to the advertisers that he put out, who were concerned that there might be too much free speech on the platform. I wanted to reach out personally to share my motivation in acquiring Twitter. There has been much speculation about why I bought Twitter and what I think about advertising. Most of it has been wrong. The reason I acquired Twitter is because it is important to the future of civilization to have a common digital town square where a wide range of beliefs can be debated in a healthy manner without resorting to violence. There is currently great danger that social media will splinter into far right-wing and far left-wing echo chambers that generate more hate and divide our society. In the relentless pursuit of clicks, much of the traditional media has fueled and catered to those polarized extremes, as they believe that is what brings in the money. But in doing so, the opportunity for dialogue is lost. That is why I bought Twitter. I didn't do it because it would be easy. I didn't do it to make more money. I did it to try and help humanity, whom I love. All right, well, I would argue that, but that's okay for a different day. And I do so with humility, recognizing that failure in pursuing this goal, despite our best efforts, is a very real possibility. That said, Twitter obviously cannot become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences. In addition to adhering to the laws of the land, our platform must be warm and welcoming to all, where you can choose your desired experience according to your preferences, just as you can choose, for example, to see movies or play video games ranging from all ages to mature. I also very much believe that advertising, when done right, can delight, entertain, and inform you. It can show you a service or product or medical treatment that you never knew existed, but is right for you. For this to be true, it is essential to show Twitter users advertising that is as relevant as possible to their needs. Low relevancy ads are spam, but high relevant ads are actually content. Fundamentally, Twitter aspires to be the most respected advertising platform in the world that strengthens your brand and grows your enterprise. To everyone who has partnered with us, I thank you. Let's build something extraordinary together. All right, so a few keywords there. Digital town square. That's what social media companies are, and they should be governed that way. I think that's right. And I think allowing users to curate their own content is fine. If a user doesn't want to see a show like ours, they can, block us or, choose not to follow and then tell the algorithm, hey, don't send us the Do Dissident show. That's fine. That's fine. You can do that without throwing people off of the platform. Now, like I said,
right.
Elon
And
Musk,
that I think is totally fair. If people choose to have a curated experience,
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, that's their personal choice.
Yeah,
people do that already, right? You choose what newspaper you read, you choose what shows you watch. Okay, so to extend that into that sphere where you have less control over, like, picking a channel, right? So you get to pick a channel, you want to make that modification. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a fair compromise, right? For people like us who want to hear everything, you have one lane you can go into on Twitter, and for people who need to just see the blue checks, they can just see the blue checks.
Right.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's all fair enough. And as for, look, is he going to stick to his guns here? We don't know that. I know enough about Elon Musk to know that I don't really trust him. He seems cut from a similar cloth as a lot of these other tech entrepreneurs. Not that he is, a Silicon Valley guy, but he's of that kind. He seems to have the same sort of sociopathic tendencies that a lot of these guys have. But the fact that he's going in here with the stated intention of doing that tells me, okay, you know what? We'll start clean here at 50-50 and see what happens starting tomorrow, if that is, in fact, when he takes over. Because the guys who are running these companies now, we already know the deal we're getting with them.
Right.
Which is bad.
I think he will, because the political support's going to be there after this midterm. Like, that's going to be where the political winds are blowing anyway.
Right.
Well,
No, absolutely.
The Republicans are going to call him in for a hearing for platforming people who had been banned on Twitter. They're not going to call him into Congress.
I mean, this is the thing, man. It's just so fucked up how all of this has unfolded. This partnership of state and corporate power to suppress dissenting voices is fairly new, just as social media is fairly new. During the Bush years, they did the Patriot Act, right? They signed that, which means, we can put a bag over your head and ship you off to fucking Cuba for no reason, right? And that was terrifying. It remains terrifying. But you did not have this open collusion between the state and big tech.
Coddling.
Just
essentially coddling.
On a massive scale. Right. That's new.
Right.
And that is only going to get worse and worse and worse, I would say, unless the Democrats lose. But I don't know, man. They lost in 2016. They didn't have the House. They didn't have the Senate. They didn't have the Oval. And that's when all this shit started. Because even as a minority party, Democrats still have major influence in a lot of these places. California, hello, Silicon Valley, right? So they're always going to be able to keep them in mind. So it's very difficult to see where this goes or how this gets better. Unless a big dick swinging asshole like Elon Musk comes in with $44 billion and just changes it, right? That's why we're in the depressing situation where, the best we can hope for as content creators or as users of social media, as I assume everybody watching is here, we're all kind of one big online left crowd here. The best you can hope for, unfortunately, is that one of these oligarchs comes in.
Right, because we live in an oligarchy.
Right, exactly.
There
and
is
does
no
of,
other sector of society with the power to do that.
Right, exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
This is, we get, when we did our last segment on Elon Musk a while back, we got a lot of shit. We always get a lot of shit on Elon Musk. This is what Elon Musk is, in my opinion. I'm gonna give you a quick little story about my lost years. Okay, so I lied about my age to get a job as a journalist when I was 19, and there was this newspaper that was the toast of the town, Street News, because homelessness was the number one issue in New York at that moment. This is the pre-Giuliani era, not long before Giuliani. And this guy, I don't think we can be sued for saying this, it's just history. His name was Hutchinson Persons. Dieter McBusiness, you think you got a waspy name?
Yeah.
Hutchinson Persons was this guy's name, and he looked like a Hutchinson. Tall, skinny, blonde, blue-eyed. And he created this newspaper with the premise that he's going to give it to homeless people to sell to make money, and then they bring back the cut of the business, and this is going to employ them, and it's going to solve homelessness. And he became really the toast of the town. He became very famous. I was a reporter for it. They had no idea I was only 19. I was going out and sleeping with the homeless in parks and writing articles about it and all this stuff. And this is quite a philanthropist, right? This is quite a philanthropist trying to save these homeless people. But look at the solution he came up with. So really, it might not surprise you that he made his entire staff read Atlas Shrugged. He was a huge devotee of Ayn Rand.
Right.
And his idea was that private business like him, a private businessman like him, could solve the problems of society in a way that government never could. Now, eventually, he wound up on, I believe it was Nightline, or it might have been 60 Minutes. It was one of those investigative shows where he thought he's going to do like a glorifying him interview. And they busted him on financial irregularities on the air. And he took off the microphone and walked out. And that was more or less the end of Street News. Now, what I heard not long after that, you're going to love this for symmetry. Guess where he went to work? This company nobody had ever heard of out in California that was starting to work on electric cars called Tesla.
Oh, wow.
That was where he went to work after his public humiliation on TV for Street News. Elon Musk is that. He's Hutchinson Persons. That's what I see. He's that. He genuinely wants to solve social problems, but he believes in the Ayn Rand ideal of the brilliant entrepreneurial capitalist who solves society's problems with his hard work, with his intelligence, with his exceptional quality. He deserves his merit. He deserves to be at the top. And through his efforts and the businesses and inventions he will bring to society, he will solve social problems. That's Elon Musk's whole worldview. And everything he does demonstrates it. The fact that he went into all of these green energy businesses demonstrates it. He's Hutchinson. The way Hutchinson was trying to solve the problem of homelessness with this very Ayn Rand solution of creating a business that would make jobs for the homeless so that they could support themselves rather than to give them any kind of, social program or social support. That's Elon Musk. Instead of the government solving the problem of global warming, he's going to solve it as the Randian ideal, that brilliant entrepreneurial capitalist. So why would he buy Twitter? That's completely in keeping with the vision of himself and the way that social problems get solved that he has.
Please clap.